On a day like today, it's very important to remember there's only one team in Scotland, just like there's only one team in the NFL. So all I want to say is, Mona Hoops and go Birds. Let's get into today's video.
Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory.
There's going to be far too many people who take that seriously. It's a joke, lads. Calm down. Well, it's no, but still. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's nice to see you. If you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We have a few stories to go over today to close off the first week of summer. That's right, we're at the end of week 1 already. Before you know it, Celtic will be back, the Scottish Premiership will kick off and life will be back to normal. But until then, we're going to have loads of rumours, loads of stories, just like we do today. So let's not waste too much time. I want you to enjoy your Friday night rather than listening to me. Shall we start with the news around Daniel Cummings and his exit from Celtic Football Club? We know this has been coming for a while, however, week after week I do get that same question in the live streams. Do you know what's happening with Daniel Cummings? Is it certain that he's off? Well, it is now. We have got it confirmed via Fabrizio Romano, among other sources, that Daniel Cummings will join West Ham on July 1st upon the expiry of his contract at Celtic, scoring almost 30 goals this season for the Celtic B team and of course making his debut in the Champions League. His medical is done and complete and Celtic will receive a €300,000, a £250,000 training compensation fee, which is standard when young players make the switch at the end of their contract. It means that Daniel Cummings will move on. We knew this as far back as January when the talks apparently opened for a new contract and he said no. We knew this when we seen that he was down at the West Ham game in recent weeks on his Instagram stories rather than being around the Celtic camp. This was basically confirmed and now it is confirmed. He will move on, and of course that sparked the same conversation that we have pretty much every year about Celtic's youth academy and players coming up and moving on. I'm getting quite tired of it, but I understand it is an important conversation to have. As I said, almost 30 goals for Daniel Cummings this season. It wasn't quite 30. He scored 29, 23 of them coming in the Lowland League and 6 in the UEFA Youth League, which is the stat that is the most impressive there and probably what has made West Ham go for the player. Yeah, I mean, best of luck to him. He's made his bed, he'll lie in it. I'm not heartbroken over it, to tell you the truth. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm raging or I'm disappointed at the club for letting it happen. You know, if these are the kind of moves these players want to go for, so be it. I'm going to say something controversial here. I think there's a bit of an overreaction from our support. Now, these are great stats, they're fantastic stats, and undoubtedly he'll have a future in football. But is it going to be the immediate future that people think he's going to have when they see this move to West Ham? I don't think so. I don't expect to see him in the West Ham team next year. The jump from the Lowland League to the Premier League, God, the Lowland League to the Scottish Premiership is big enough. So I just feel like some people get carried away. Now, I understand the frustrations. They're perfectly merited. Is the youth system at Celtic right now working the way it should? No, of course not. We've not seen good enough players. We've not seen players, should I say, come through the youth academy into the first team successfully for a while now. It feels like a generation has kind of passed by us of players coming through. But ultimately, Celtic haven't been producing players good enough, because even the ones who have went on to leave the club, they haven't suggested yet that Celtic have missed them. You know, we talked about Karamoko Dembele for years. He's an example. Is he doing anything now in his career that's so spectacular and makes you go, damn, I wish Celtic gave him a chance? No. And he's just one of many. Now, I wish the best for every young man that plays for Celtic and the ones that leave Celtic as well. And I do the same for Daniel Cummings. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm heartbroken. What we need to do is fix the whole system and reevaluate the whole system and go from there. But I don't think that Daniel Cummings is the one for me that I'm going to be looking back on and going, damn, I wish it worked. Because ultimately, I'm not convinced that he was going to be good enough for the team anyway. Is he going to play for West Ham next year? Absolutely not. So only time will tell, and it's going to be quite a while before we know if Daniel Cummings was one that truly got away. These players are playing in the Lowland League, which just isn't good enough. The jump to the Premiership is sometimes just too much, and to see players play in that league and then be expected to come in and play the Premiership, it just doesn't work. And Daniel Cummings, for me, is a player who's probably had his mind made up for a while. He clearly knew there was interest from West Ham and made it abundantly clear at the club that he was off when he said no to the contract. So I don't feel any sort of ill intent towards the club for this. He had his mind made up. And if his mind was made up because he was told he wasn't going to get a chance at Celtic, well, that's life, I'm afraid. He still had development to do and ways to go. If the manager and the coaches don't think he's ready, they don't think he's ready. And as I said, playing at the Lowland League is a very different level and a very different demand from what you're expected when you play for the first team. So I'm not heartbroken over this. I think it is another reminder that the youth system is flawed and there's ways to go. But, you know, I think in Scotland altogether, I've said this a million times, I've fed up repeating myself, we're just not producing good enough players at the minute. And I think that goes to show in the national team, at Celtic, at Rangers, wherever else in the country. You know, we're not producing good enough players anywhere. So it's a rethink all round for me rather than just at Celtic. But, you know, I think he'll go to West Ham. He'll do whatever he does in their Premier League 2 side to begin with. Probably find a loan move. And then if he's good enough for West Ham one day, we'll find out. If not, he'll kind of go about the lower league clubs in England. Maybe find his way back to Scotland at one point. And that'll be that. But I wish him the best. That's not me saying that's what I hope for him. I'm not going to get torn up and heartbroken about this. A lot of people losing the rag that he's off, but he wanted off. So, as I said, best of luck to him. But it is what it is. Daniel Cummings has left the club. Let's talk about Daizen Maeda, because his name is doing the rounds again this morning and this afternoon after the links to Fenerbahce came about earlier this week. You'll remember we spoke about it on the channel that Fenerbahce were interested in Daizen Maeda. Well, according to Turkish journalists over there, Jose Mourinho apparently admired him. We heard that they were floating around a £10 million price tag for him, which just seems not enough at all. Well, more has come out from that story, and several publications from Turkey are saying that Fenerbahce are actually ready to make a move now. So it's developing pretty quickly, this, if there is truth to it. Because stories like this have been flying around this morning, that Fenerbahce have their transfer activities lined up and they want to meet to talk about Daizen Maeda, and apparently they're ready to table a bid. Now you can go through and read the whole story. Apparently there's a possibility of this happening of 73%, and they are ready to send over agents. There was another one as well that came out, I'll flip over to just now, called Sports Witness, which highlighted the point that talks are set for next week with Celtic to sign Daizen Maeda, a proposed fee that looks wildly optimistic. So it's going over Photomark, it's going over this Sport Witness article as well. I do have a point that I want to bring up. For those who are sceptical and for those who do get a little bit nervous when they read things like this, I just want to bring up something that I remember from last year. This is the same outlet, Photomark, who were reporting that Celtic were bidding and talking to Fenerbahce about Dominic Livakovic last year. Do you remember that, when we were looking for a new goalkeeper and this big story came out, Dominic Livakovic, we were like, oh my god, can't believe Celtic are actually going to try and go for Livakovic. And then I believe it was Livakovic's management that came out maybe a week or two later saying it's absolute nonsense, there's no truth to it, he's staying at Fenerbahce. This is the same outlet. This is the same one. So remember the other day when I said that I give it the big Ryan 118 stamp of shite approval? I am once again giving this the Ryan 118 big stamp of shite approval. I don't know if there's any element of truth in any of these articles, but if you're going through today doing your reading and you come across all of this, I would take it with the smallest, tiniest, most invisible pinch of salt that you have ever seen, because I think it is a lot of nonsense. The article went on to strengthen the point that Fenerbahce will make a bid around the region of €10 million, which, even if there was truth in that, would be thrown out the window straight away by Celtic. There is no way that they would sell Daizen Maeda for €10 million. Even if he wanted to go, they would tell him, well, sit your arse down, because you're not going anywhere for €10 million, and that's the kind of authority that you need to have at the club. So even if there is truth in it, don't worry about it. What I will say is, don't be naive about the possibility of Maeda going anywhere, whether it be Fenerbahce or so on. But in this story, not much to it at all. Take it with a pinch of salt. guys. Now, we know Celtic are looking for a striker in this transfer window, and a couple of weeks ago we were linked with one currently playing in Holland, Moroccan player Youssef El Kachati. He was linked with the club. We didn't get to talk about it on the channel. I didn't think there was too much in it. However, he has come out over the past couple of days and confirmed he will be on the move this summer, and if the truth is in the stories that Celtic have been sending scouts to watch him, that will certainly have some alarm bells ringing at the club. He was on in the media following his Eredivisie playoff game against Willem 2, saying that he will 100% be certain he'll make a fantastic step this summer. But he wants to leave something behind at Telstar that will never make them forget him. I think it's very important that I end my time here well. If I can shoot Telstar into the Eredivisie, then I will do that. So currently playing in the Dutch second tier, fighting for promotion to the top league. He's scored 24 goals in 44 this season, and apparently has been scouted by Celtic on a number of occasions. Could he be one now even higher up in the radar with him announcing he wants to leave? I don't know, but it's one to look out for. And a bit of devastating news for some of you to end off today's video. Celtic will not see Steven Gerrard next season. It doesn't look as though he will be back in Scotland this summer. Apparently he's given Rangers the old knockback, the KB. Steven Gerrard said no, and I'm gutted about that, quite genuinely. You know, I know everybody that supports Rangers will be in the comments going, this is the man that stopped the 10 and all the rest of it. But, you know, records speak for themselves, and being sacked from Aston Villa, being sacked in Saudi Arabia, and winning 1-9 in Scotland, you know, I would have liked him back. So it's a shame. It's a shame. Brendan Rodgers will be absolutely gutted, I know that. So, aye, poor Gerrard.
That is so Gerrard.
Right, that does it for today. Just a bit of a quick fire bulletin for you. Not much in the news that's big, that's life changing. So we hope next week there will be more out there to really get our teeth into, and I'll be right here to talk about all of it. So until then, please take care of yourself, enjoy, and have a good weekend. I'll see you all next time.